top of the table. Arsenal are in town here at King Power Stadium as Leicester City face high-flying Gunners here. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff. We're an hour away now from kickoff, so let's get all of today's team news with our commentator, James Fielden.
It's a freezing cold day actually here outside. The Leicester keepers have just come out to warm up. They know the team, as do we. Starting today for Leicester City are Wilfred and Ndidi. First start since the Forest away game, and a first start of 2023 for Denis Praet as they come in for Pat Mendy and James Maddison. Maddison not involved in the squad today. We knew that he was unlikely with that knee problem that he picked up, and he misses out. So Leicester line up with Ward in goal, Castagna, Suter, Fass and Christensen across the back, and Ndidi and Dewsbury Hall in midfield with Praet just ahead of them. Tetê off the right, Barnes off the left, and Iheanacho starting through the middle. For Arsenal, one change, and it comes up front as Eddie Nketiah drops out of their 11 today. Gabriel Martinelli comes into their side, but a slight change from them. We understand from sources in the press room that Trossard is going to start through the middle with Martinelli wide, but in goal it's Ramsdale in the sticks. White, Saliba, Gabriel and Zinchenko across the back. Odegaard, Jorginho and Xhaka in midfield. Saka right, Martinelli left, Trossard up front, having signed from Brighton in January. But the headline team news for Leicester City today, the introductions of Ndidi and Praet.
Thank you very much, James. Yes, welcome along to Matchday Live here on LCFC TV with me, Dan Bates, Jerry Taggart and Matty Fryatt are with me in the studio today. We've got Matt Elliott on co-commentary. We'll speak to him in about half an hour or so, but it's just us three for now. How are you both? Good afternoon. Jerry, starting with you. The start of a busy couple of days for you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, big game today. Tough game, you've got to say. But you know, and obviously with Maddison not being in the starting 11, that sort of adds to the, you know, a bit of downside from, you know, the game last week. I actually like Denis Praet in that position, but, you know, if you're talking about guile and creativity, then, you know, James Maddison's at the minute the go-to man. So that's a big loss. So they're going to have to roll their sleeves up today if they're going to get a result.
Good afternoon, of course, to you as well, Matty. Similar to Jerry, I guess that there's still a chance that they were brilliant against Spurs a couple of weeks ago here, weren't they? Let's hope for a repeat of that today.
Yeah, I think that's the main message. Last time out against Spurs, it was the whole place was rocking, full of energy, and you look throughout the team though, there is energy. That's what Arsenal provided as the opposition. They've got full of it, but then the players that have come in, Denis Praet does give that. I know it's a blow not having the quality and composure of James Maddison, but at the same time, Denis Praet's going to perform a shift. He's going to get around the pitch, and he'll have to pick his moments as well. And it's going to be a huge game for Wilfred and Ndidi. Not quite sure with the selection where, from the past game, Mendy obviously was arguably the best player on the pitch. Tielemans not into it, so it's a big day for him as well.
Well, in between that game against Tottenham was, of course, an away game at Old Trafford to face Manchester United. We'll take a look back at what happened just under a week ago. Leicester was fantastic for half an hour in that game. Could have been 2 or 3-0 up, but for some brilliant saves. We'll look back on that. We'll hear from Tetê, the first time he's spoken since signing for the club. The Brazilian right winger has already been in and amongst the goals, and we'll also take a look back at some classic goals against Arsenal. A certain Matt Elliott may feature in that, which he always moans about not featuring it. He may do today. I'm not giving anything away, but you can probably guess which goal it'll be anyway. Yeah, we spoke about Maddison. Obviously, that's probably the headline team news really from a Leicester point of view. The fact that he isn't in the 11, he isn't on the bench, which is it is a blow.
It is a blow because what he brings, obviously, the creativity, the influence upon the team that he has, the goals, the assists, and that composure. Even last time out, his finish and the play, how he links it, he just seems a level above. And to miss a key player like Maddison is going to be a huge blow, but it's an opportunity for others. It's unfortunate injuries happen, but at the same time, the players that are coming in, Denis Praet, for example, he's got to really perform and show what he's capable of. Slightly different role it looks in terms of the starting 11, where normally you see Denis Praet on the right side, but he's probably more favoured as a 10 or an 8, so breaking from midfield, which is slightly different to what Maddison does. But again, you've got to match the energy, and Denis Praet will provide that.
Yeah, Jerry, you mentioned obviously Denis Praet in that position. You said you quite like him in there. I guess that would be, as Matty's saying, where he probably wants to play.
Yeah, I think he's a different type of player, obviously, to James Maddison, but what he does really well is the timing of his runs, i.e. breaking from midfield and breaking in and behind the back line of opposition teams. And we've seen it early on in his career. I think, you know, our most of the games he played in that position was, I suppose, memory serves me right, was during lockdown, the football during lockdown, when he was playing in those positions, and he caused a lot of problems to teams because, you know, the timing of his runs from midfield were that good, and obviously when you're playing with one up front, it's vitally important that, you know, the centre forward gets that support from that attacking midfielder. And although he won't be doing a lot of work on the edge of the box, or his passing won't be as incisive as, say, a James Maddison, what he will do is get up and support Iheanacho up front.
He's clearly a clever player, isn't he?
He is, and as Jerry touched on, it's them runs breaking. It might be Iheanacho drops in a little bit more, Denis Praet goes beyond. So it's a little bit different. And then, of course, timing runs. It's with that 10, how can you influence? Obviously, James Maddison is brilliant at doing that. Not many can do that, where you're in the 10 and you've been productive in that role. And that's something where he's got to think about, can the numbers be higher? Obviously, he normally plays on the right, but today, can he influence it more in terms of getting into positions where he can have shots or making things happen, assisting goals and just working off Iheanacho and being busy around it. Some of it might be not in terms of the attacking part of it, but defensively. It might be, can he get the press to break it up? And I think it was Man City against Arsenal a few weeks ago when I saw them on the telly. Now, when Man City got after Arsenal, they gave the ball away cheaply. And then that's another part of Denis Praet's game where he probably, you could say, is more effective than what James Maddison is. So it could be winning it back to then break as well. So it's a sort of a different element to what James Maddison brings.
Yeah, hopefully we do expect Leicester to create some chances here at King Power Stadium this afternoon. They certainly created plenty in the first half at Old Trafford last week, but they didn't take any, and Manchester United took advantage in the second half.
Leicester City back at a stadium where they've taken 4 points in the last 2 visits, and after a goal-filled couple of matches, a win by any margin would do here against the Manchester United side that have won 5 of their last 7 games, during which time they've been unbeaten. Now Barnes picks it up on the halfway line. He can slot it forward here to Iheanacho if he wants, or he can carry it himself. Iheanacho on the edge of the area, back to Harvey Barnes! Great save to Gea! What an opportunity for Leicester! Harvey Barnes was through, but David De Gea showing the class he's still got. Plays it down the right. Castagna had checked his run, but he's onto it now. Edge of the area. Castagna can stand one up, he does, he's coming towards Iheanacho, great save to Gea again! Somehow the Nigerian denied. Rashford away down the right, he's going to be offside here, but he's through on goal for now. He'll go for goal and find the net, and for now this goal stands. The assistant's flag didn't go up, everyone was looking for it. Jerry Taggart convinced it's offside, but at the moment Manchester United lead by a goal to 0. Martinez forces it forward, Fred looking to play Rashford in, he's away down the left hand side, he's in, Rashford looking for another, it's 2-0 to Manchester United. No, it's not, the flag's up for offside, or is it? And the referee says goal. Oh, Rashford does have a second, as do Manchester United. United coming again, Rashford, Sancho edge of the box, he plays it on to Fernandes, back to Sancho! Who scored in both fixtures against Leicester now, 3-0. And with half an hour to go, it's probably game over. And that is time. Manchester United winners by 3-0.
Yeah, well, frustrating Sunday all round there for Leicester up in Manchester. Jerry, you were there, of course, weren't you? And 3-0 on paper, it looks as if Manchester United dominated the game. Yeah. That's not the case, though, is it? Particularly not in the first half.
Not in the first half. Second half, I think, you know, Man United were the better team. Leicester were the better team in the first half and went in 1-0 down. They had started the game fantastically well. The link-up play between Iheanacho, Maddison and Barnes in particular worked an absolute treat. But it's the old adage, you know, if you don't take or you don't convert the opportunities when you come your way, then at Old Trafford against an informed Man United team and a very informed Marcus Rashford, then somewhere down the line you would expect to pay the penalty. And unfortunately that's exactly what happened. And it was just unfortunate. I don't know at the crucial moments whether the decision making was right or wrong, or could have been different in those certain areas, but definitely, you know, you're talking at least 2 or 3 really good opportunities to get on the score sheet.
Yeah, the Harvey Barnes effort was a great save from De Gea. Maybe should do a little bit better. Iheanacho, and again, it's another fantastic save, isn't it, from the goalkeeper? He seems to always raise his game when he plays against Leicester.
He does, as top goalkeeper. Obviously, he's had a few mistakes, but from a Leicester perspective, then Barnes, you could say, could he play either side a little bit more, but to get actually over the crossbar, but a well-fashioned move, and then the header as well, that's top draw to claw that out. But at the same time, Leicester being positive on the front foot, created the chances. We spoke the previous week against Tottenham, I think it was 4 or 5 shots and they all went in, give or take the one at the end, but it's 4 or 5. And then then against Manchester United, you had your 2-3 chances, and then it can be a completely different game. You're going 2-0 up, 1-0 up, whatever it is, and then you can build on that. As then in the second half, it just gets a little bit stretched, and obviously the quality comes through in the end. But in the first half and on the chances, then it could be a completely different game. It sort of gets away from Leicester in the end, but it shows the attacking intent, and on another day it could have been different.
Anything they could have done differently, maybe, Jerry, with hindsight, particularly in the second half? And what about the goals as well themselves? They'll be frustrated with the manner of a couple of those.
I think the 2 Rashford goals definitely, it was more positioning mistakes for me. If you look at this, the gap between the 2 centre halves, you look at the recovery run from Harry Souttar and from Wout Faes, and again on this goal, if you look at Wout Faes, he's 20-25 yards away. You know, if he's closer, i.e. to Castagna, he can go and shut that ball down and make it a bit more difficult for Marcus Rashford to get a shot off. You know, obviously Harry Souttar sells himself as he goes in tight, and that creates a gap, but when one of your centre half goes in tight, the other centre half should be coming across and covering to a certain degree. I'm not saying he should be all the way across, but you've got to give yourself a chance to be able to go and help the fullback out then. If he comes into a 1v1 situation, what exactly happens? So I think both centre halves for both goals were playing in straight lines and they weren't covering each other, and that was the main issue for me. And
it doesn't come much easier, obviously, facing the league leaders today. You know how potent they are going forward, the likes of Saka, Trossard. We know how good he is from his time at Brighton, obviously Martinelli as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, well, Saka at the minute, he's the main man, isn't he? He's got 10 goals in all competitions, 9 in the league, 8 assists. I think if he either scores or assists today, he'll be the youngest player in Arsenal's history to reach 50 goals and assists. And obviously Martinelli, you know, he's got 8 goals, Odegaard 8 goals. So yeah, they're putting forth, they're spreading the goals around the whole team, and then, well, obviously Trossard coming into you know, the Arsenal squad during the window. Then it's just adding competition for places, and now he gets his chance supposedly up front today, so he'll be itching to get on the score sheet.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game today against the Gunners. That man, Jerry, was referencing Saka, the youngest member of the Arsenal squad as well. Playing in his position from Leicester's point of view is Brazilian winger Tetê, and we caught up with him this week for the first time since he signed for the club back in January. Tetê, you've been here now just under a month. How have you found your first couple of weeks here at Leicester City?
It's been a month, it's gone by really quickly. I remember my first impressions here at Leicester really as good as they possibly could be. I'm really happy here with my teammates helping me a lot.
Obviously, your first game at Aston Villa was a fantastic start, and you got that goal. What was that day like? What was it like seeing all the Brazil flags in the away end?
Foi dia especial, único, né? Só
It
quem
was
tá ali
a
pra
really
ver.
special day, unique. You had to really have been there to appreciate it. Scoring the goal, helping the team get win after a run of defeats. I was really happy, and at the end of the game to see those Brazilian flags, it was really impressive. You could say it was a dream come true.
Can you remember what your emotions were like at the moment that you scored that goal? Because it was a vital goal at the time as well, just to go ahead before half-time.
Sim, lembro da emoção. Até a comemoração foi.
Yeah, I
feliz.
remember the emotions. My celebration was a bit weird. I sort of slipped and things, but yeah, it was brilliant. The time I scored the goal, it was right before half-time, before us going into the dressing room. So it was great. I remember it well.
And obviously the week after was another brilliant win at King Power Stadium, this time against Tottenham. Two fantastic games to start for you in your Leicester career.
Sim, foi jogo incrível, né?
Yeah, against Tottenham, it was an incredible win at home. I was really looking forward and excited to be playing at the King Power Stadium. So to win against Tottenham was a great feeling.
And next up at King Power Stadium, of course, it's another North London side, this time Arsenal. They're top of the league, so it'll be a tough game, but you must be able to take confidence from that win against Tottenham.
Com certeza, todos os jogos a gente entra para vencer a partida.
Definitely, we go into every game looking to win, and this game will be no different. Definitely, it will be a great game. Arsenal are a very strong side, but we're looking to put in a big performance against them.
They have some dangerous attacking players, Arsenal, but so do Leicester. How fun has it been playing alongside the likes of James Maddison, Kelechi Iheanacho and Harvey Barnes in that front four?
Cara, foi algo incrível.
It's been incredible. You can see the way we link up on the pitch, the way we combine it. It shows the connection we have as a team in the dressing room. It's been really gratifying, really pleasing to have this up-front play with them.
Is that surprising for you that it's come so early, the fact that you've made these connections on the pitch already and you've only been here a couple of weeks, as you've said?
No.
It wasn't a surprise at all, because the team welcomed me and received me so well from the very first day, and they explained to me the way they intend and the way they want to play, and I also explained how I like to play as well, so that connection has been there since the first few days, since very early on, so no surprise at all.
What have you made, Matty, of the start that Tetê has made in a Leicester shirt? Obviously on debut to score away in a brilliant win at Villa was a perfect way to introduce himself, wasn't it?
It was fantastic against Villa. Touch and movement. A little bit less so against Tottenham, and obviously a difficult game against Manchester United, but he's given the team a lot more balance. He's got pace, he's got flair. You like to think he could build on that Villa performance today. But he gives the team a lot more balance. It looks a lot more settled with him there. But you like to see more of those runs, particularly at home. Can he threaten the back line? And at times he's going to make mistakes in terms of his decision making, but he's the type of player who's going to risk the ball, which as a fan it's exciting to see, because you're going to take on players, but sometimes decisions aren't always there. But today you want him to get at fullback, particularly Zinchenko. I don't think is the best of defenders. You want him facing up. Can he get at him? He's got the ability to go either side. Sometimes he's coming inside a little bit too much, but he's got the capabilities of going outside. And he should be looking at a game today and thinking, I can really get Zinchenko and hopefully provide some assists and maybe get into forward positions. But he has given the team a lot more balance in terms of how he plays, and it's also afforded James Maddison to come into his favoured position. So you've got players in their set positions.
And following that game away at Villa, obviously the first time the fans got to see him properly was here against Tottenham, and you just sensed, okay, but he faded a little bit in the second half.
Yeah.
But every time he got the ball, the whole stadium sort of took an intake of breath, didn't it, expecting something to happen. And that's what, as Matty says, is great as a fan to come and just watch that.
Yeah, you could say he's your archetypal Brazilian forward. You know, great close control, loves running with the ball. For me, at times, his decision making could be better. What he will do, which is vitally important when Matt talks about the balance of the team, is he will occupy defenders. He will worry people. He's not just someone who stands on there and goes back or sideways when he gets a ball. When he gets a ball, he wants to go forward. He wants to commit defenders. So he will occupy opposition defenders. What he has to try and do now, or a little bit more of, is when he's being occupied out in that right hand side, try and find the pass nice and early, and not try and go, I'm going to go past him down the line, and I'm going to go inside past him. So he's probably trying to do a little bit too much at times on the ball when there's a good pass that he can find, and then that in turn opens the space up to go and, you know, for somebody else to go and attack the opposition. So those are little key areas for me where I think he can improve.
Well, I think you'll probably know as a forward yourself, I think Brendan Rodgers has even said it, that when Tetê came in, that allowed him to play Iheanacho, and he was a bit more ready to play Iheanacho, if you like, because then Barnes and Tetê could go in behind. Iheanacho then didn't have to always spin and make the runs. He could drop in, and he's got those options, as Jerry's been saying.
He has, and it's obviously Iheanacho's come in and he's shown his form, and that also helps. But again, as Jerry said, sort of, you've got that balance, you've got the width, and it's natural to him, as opposed to playing someone out there who hasn't got blistering pace. Like he's got, obviously against the Villa goal, you could see he's got a turn of pace, so he can keep the width. Now it's a case of, if you draw out the fullback, can you play a give and go? Can you then occupy the space that's been created? But then when you talk about them players, they're all looking for goals, they're all looking to make things happen, so there's got to be a balance from the other players within the team to recognise that the front three are doing their bit, but can we just protect it from behind? But it's a lot more where you've got someone who's comfortable on the right hand side as opposed to somewhere who's just doing a job. Although James Maddison still performed there, it's not his natural fit. And again, talking about bouncing it, he can, because he's coming on to his stronger left, to then not always follow it. Sometimes you might want to go down the line but not sort of make the play congested. It's a give and go, or if the defender stays off, can you get at him? So it's just, again, decisions, but that's going to happen with wide players. But you'd rather them take the risk than sort of be half and half and be conservative. So he has added that, and I think it's also a bonus, that sort of Brazilian flair that brings, and obviously the excitement, like a player like that has the ball and the close ball control.
You mentioned James Maddison there. Apparently Brendan Rodgers, in his pre-match interview, which has taken place about half an hour ago, has said that he was due to be in the squad, but he's been ill overnight, so that's why he's out through illness this afternoon. Let's hear now from Brendan Rodgers, who spoke a couple of days ago leading into this Arsenal game. He was asked about facing Mikel Arteta's side. They played in the second game of the season, and he was asked if he was expecting them to be as good as they've been.
I think they've had a fantastic season up until now. I think you sensed right at the very beginning of the season when we played, they'd signed the two players that were sort of a game changer for them in terms of mentality. You know, when you got the likes of Kieran Tierney on the bench, who's an outstanding player, and because of Zinchenko playing, and then it really shows you the quality of the squad that they had. But I think Zinchenko and Jesus coming in really would have helped in giving that mindset. Saliba coming in at the back, and obviously the other players then improving. So no, I think that they played very well on that day. Whenever we got close to them, we made mistakes which gave them a cushion in the game. But you could see in that early part of the season that there was a good feeling around the place, and that's continued through the season. I think Mikel's done a fantastic job with them, and okay, there's still a long way to go. It's 15 games to go, but they've had a very, very good season so far.
Arsenal had a bit of a 6-goal thriller last weekend. With so many good attacking players on both sides this weekend, are you expecting a very open, very expansive game? Does that suit you?
Well, I think both teams want to play. That's the identity and philosophy of both Mikel and myself. We want to create goals and score goals. I think we've shown that in our time here. But of course, you have to be mindful of the quality that they have. So like in all the big games against the top teams, you have to defend well. You have to be strong. You have to do all the basics of the game well. You've got to track runners. You have to be competitive, and then you hope then in your football and believe in your football that you can create and score goals. And I think we've done that. So should be a fantastic football game.
You mentioned to Dan about how Arsenal recruited proven winners earlier in the season. I remember asking you before you played Arsenal how that would change the dynamic there. For you, when you do bring in proven champions from other leagues or previous times in their history, what does that do to the dressing room?
Yeah, it's so important because they become great role models for your other players. I've got absolutely no doubt that Arsenal had top class players there, but when you bring in Jesus, and it's no coincidence that by him coming in and probably demonstrating how he works every day, the intensity of how he works, I'm pretty sure Eddie and Tetê, who's a fantastic young player, will have seen what it takes to be a top player. And then when his chance comes, and has come, he's then, no coincidence, his intensity is greater, he's working harder, and I'm pretty sure that will be from someone and seeing a top class player operate every day. So I just think that for when you bring in that mindset and that mentality, especially if you've got young players that can be influenced, then they always will hopefully follow the top players and their mentalities. And when you can do that, and when you have that, then of course it's a great ingredient to succeed.
Brendan Rodgers there, fairly complimentary, wasn't he, of Arsenal and Mikel Arteta, and rightly so, really, when you look at the table and look at the season that they're having.
Yeah, they've had a fantastic season so far. Faced a little bit of adversity after the Man City game. Were behind against Villa and managed to turn that around. And then back it on top of Man City losing points themselves, so they find themselves in a great position, but still know that nothing's done. But at the start of the season, see where they're at, I don't think too many people were expecting that. And it's like they've got a good balance in the squad. There's some experienced players in Xhaka in particular, and then you've got the youth of Saka, Martinelli. So that's up the levels of intensity and work rate that Brendan was touching upon there. And they're thriving on confidence as well. Touched on Nketiah, who's not playing in the starting 11 today, but always find when he's playing, he does get chances. It's whether he can convert or not. But Arsenal have been doing some fabulous stuff throughout the season. It's can they carry on in decent form and coming up against the Leicester team who sort of lapsed a little bit, then got into some really good form and just can carry on from what it's been and sort of find themselves in between. But yeah, Arteta's Arsenal have been going well this season.
Yeah, how did Leicester hurt Arsenal, Jerry, today? If you actually look at it, in their last couple of games, conceded 3 against Man City, 2 last week at Villa. Yeah,
I think invariably they've got to try and keep a clean sheet for as long as possible, because there are going to be chances for Leicester out there. Although in saying that, Arsenal have the best record in the league from winning from behind. And they obviously showed that last week against Villa. Their away record is pretty impressive as well.
Best in the league as well.
Best in the league, yeah. I think it's 9 games they've won away this season. So before you go into this game, you know it's going to be tough. They're obviously both teams are under pressure for different reasons. But Arsenal, find themselves at the top of the league by 2 points with a game in hand. They know coming here won't be easy, with or without James Maddison. So there's a bit of pressure on them to make sure that they keep the pressure on the likes of your Man Cities, Man United, and whoever else follows them up. So for me, if you know that they will concede goals, then you have to make sure that your back line is absolutely spot on, because they do, obviously, they do have quality players at the top end of the pitch.
Let's hear now from the Arsenal camp. Obviously, they're chasing the Premier League title this season, of course. They win today, they go 5 points clear. Let's hear from Simon Collins from the Evening Standard, as well as their manager, Mikel Arteta, of course. Mikel Arteta knows from his time as assistant at Man City just how important every game is during a Premier League title race. A win for the Gunners at Leicester today could see them go 5 points clear at the top thanks in part to that very late win away at Villa last week.
Much better mood, much more positive, the confidence is much better, and the environment around training much better. The fact that the team showed the capacity to rebuild in a really adverse situation when you are 2-1 down and you played less than 72 hours before and everybody was expecting you to be tired mentally, quality-wise, belief-wise, to be able to come back and win the game. It's a really big boost for us.
You must have looked at the game against Manchester United that Leicester played. Of course, United played very well in the second half, but how much attention did you pay to their first half performance in particular?
The first half, they should have been 2 or 3-0 up very early in the game. That's the reality. If it's not for that bit, that would be a very different game. The game they play against the Spurs, they played against recently. Really complimentary about them. They're in a really good moment right now, and we're going to have to be really good.
Yeah, I think the nerves are definitely hitting. The first half of the season, when Arsenal was sort of at the top of the table, fans were just enjoying the ride, I think, and it was a bit of this carefree attitude of like, let's see where this road takes us. And now we're getting towards the business end of the season. There's suddenly the thought that, hang on a minute, we could actually do this. And yeah, the pressure's mounting, and the atmosphere at Arsenal has been brilliant all season, but the last few games you felt the sort of tension creeping in, and that's only what you get from being in a title race. But off the back of that Villa result, the mood has improved, and yeah, there's a sense that they can try and build up momentum, which obviously had been lost by losing to Man City.
Arteta has so many options in his squad to choose from, not least in attacking positions. The injury to Gabriel Jesus hasn't been as bad as first feared for Arsenal, as Eddie Nketiah has found the back of the net 9 times. But it's the youngest member of the squad, Bukayo Saka, that's been the standout, with 10 goals and 8 assists to his name so far this season.
He's always had the talent and he's always had the ability, but having the end product to his game now has made him just a different player. And I think it's pretty sure it's only Erling Haaland and Harry Kane who've got more goals and assists in the Premier League. And what he's accepted now is the fact that when the team is struggling, when they're down, he will be the player they turn to try and make something happen. And he's accepted that responsibility. And for someone so young to do that is huge. It is worth mentioning there are other players in the team who are playing a big role. I think you can't overlook Martin Odegaard, who certainly from the back end of the World Cup was playing about as good as any midfielder in the Premier League. I think the defence has been solid, but that man who I think if you're Leicester and you're Brendan Rodgers, you're looking at as who have we got to stop, it's got to be Bukayo Saka.
He's the man that's very much in the headlines, isn't he, this season, Bukayo Saka. If Arsenal do go on and win the league, I think all the fans will look at that 19-year-old and say thanks, because he's been absolutely brilliant this season.
He has. His numbers, that end product is delivered so far this season, full of confidence. But at the same time, you look throughout the Arsenal team, there is goals. There's Odegaard, Martinelli. Trossard's come in, I think's a fabulous player as well. And even at the start, you've got Jesus and Nketiah, who doesn't start today, but they've got goals spread throughout the team. Although you could say Saka's the main guy for that, but it is spread evenly, and they do possess quality in especially the forward areas. But I think from a Leicester thing, where you said to Jerry before, how do Leicester stop it? Yes, solid defensively and try and nullify those threats. But I think if Leicester can go after Arsenal as what they showed against Tottenham, I think they could cause problems. So you've got to look at it the other way, and they're feeling the pressure as well. They're not playing as well as what they were at the start of the season or during, when the idea of could we be Premiership winners, they're feeling a little bit of pressure, and I think if Leicester get after him today, they could cause problems.
It was interesting, Jerry, hearing what the reporter Simon had to say there about Saka, saying he stands up in big moments, which for a 19-year-old, he appears to be the go-to player for Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, you heard him all say the nerves are starting to jangle a bit, and some of the younger players in particular will be feeling that. I know they've got a couple of Premier League winners in the squad with Jesus and Zinchenko, people like that there, but it's all down to individuals and how they respond in a certain moment in a certain game. And as you rightly said, it seems to everybody that Saka is the guy who's standing up and being counted for, which is no mean feat when you're that young. He's not inexperienced, but relatively inexperienced to be in this position with his team, top of the league with, I don't know, what is it, 10, 15 games left, something like that there. and with a real chance of winning the title. So, yeah, you know, he's going to be a threat. There's no doubt about that.
Could you argue, you were talking about the youth that's in this squad, that they're inexperienced, maybe they're feeling the nerves. Could you argue the opposite, that because they're so young, that they've got a carefree attitude, that they're just taking everything in their stride?
Yeah, absolutely, and maybe one of the reasons, you know, they brought Jorginho in, because he has that wealth of experience and that calming influence. Granit Xhaka, again, the same, you know, a wealth of experience, and so if they are going through a few, you know, patchy moments, they're probably the players, you know, that they will look up to. But, you know, there is that effect on a young player that they just don't have any fear. All they want to do is go out and play football. You know, they probably, half the stuff the manager comes out with on the tactics boards, they probably don't even read it. They just go out and do the thing, because that's the way young players are. They just want to get out there and they want to play football.
No matter what age Matt Elliott was, I'm sure he didn't listen to a word any of his managers said. Matt, is that right? You're on co-commentary for us today, sat inside King Power Stadium, listening to what Jerry had to say there.
I was listening to every word that Gerald was saying, because I was always, and I still am, fearful of his response and his wrath if I don't. Managers, less so.
You'd never let Martin O'Neill know, though, that you weren't listening to him, Matt?
He would know. He had a sixth sense about what people were doing or not. He could sense himself if he weren't listening or not. Reminds me, Batesy, I'll tell you the story about the Theo Zagorakis incident, where he certainly wasn't listening because he couldn't speak English, but he was pretending he could, and it caused an element of confusion. But I'll save that for later.
Yeah, okay, if the game gets dull, which I very much doubt it will get dull today, because it's two teams that love to get forward, Matt. Don't want to put the mockers on it now, but you can pretty much say there'll be goals today.
You would think so, wouldn't you? Yeah, I think listening to the boys there, they were expressing exactly my thoughts. You know, a lot of people bumping into around the ground, you know, have heard what the team is, what players are not available today, i.e. Maddison mainly, and also, you know, that Tielemans isn't featuring, one or two other opinions flying around about different players. But the concern is that they're a little bit sort of deflated. They're thinking, oh, yeah, I think we could have squeezed something out of this game today. And then without Maddison, he's that influential that people are wrongly, I think, worried about how potent Leicester will be going forward. That's not the main issue, I don't think. This may well turn out to be different, but it's stemming the flow, the other end of the pitch, isn't it, really? There's been a little bit of a problem for Leicester throughout the season, certainly for large parts of it, but up against this Arsenal side, I suppose you can sort of hope that they're trying something a little bit different, Arsenal. It's in its infancy. We'll have to wait to see how long they continue with a similar approach, but how they react to it, how they adapt to it, and you know, it might be a little bit of a settling in period, so they might not be as effective as they have been at times, and give Leicester a chance to cope with their attack.
Obviously, in their last couple of games, you look well, all of their recent fixtures really, they have gone through a mini blip, and well, come 90 minutes last week against Aston Villa, and they would have slipped up again, and then they scored so late. Is that what teams that go and win the title, they're made of sterner stuff, and that's the sort of result that can propel them towards that?
Well, it was certainly a reassuring victory for them, wasn't it? You know, I think there's a lot of speculation, a lot of talk around if they don't get a result or win against Villa, you know, their title hopes are dashed when they're sitting top of the league still with a game in hand. As it turned out, regardless of whether they got a win or not, wasn't it? I think, no, what are they? 2 points clear, aren't they, with a game in hand now? But listen, the season didn't depend on that Villa game. I think Tetê, relatively inexperienced manager-wise, but he's been around the game at a very high level for a very long time. And a lot of these players, you know, top-level players, of course, they've dealt with a fair amount themselves already. Not exactly this situation, but you know, they know better than that their hopes are dashed straight away. So the Man City boys that have come in, without a doubt, have helped the mentality. But you know, Arsenal, is it a blip? I don't know. You know, got a couple of results here and there, but that's to be expected of pretty much every team. Man City have them, don't they? So, and still come through, putting those runs together. This Arsenal team, I think they still back themselves, and rightly so. I'd be very surprised if they fall short just because of mentality. I don't think that would be an issue for them.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. We'll give you another short break before you're on co-commentary today. Kick-off just under 20 minutes away now here at King Power Stadium, as you could hear the atmosphere starting to rack up. Let's get a quick reminder then of today's team news from a Leicester point of view. Of course, we've got Danny Ward in goal, Victor Christiansen and Timothy Castagna are the full-backs, with Fass and Suter. That's the back five that we've come accustomed to now, really, since the transfer window closed. Dewsbury Hall and Ndidi in midfield, with Barnes, Praet and Tetê supporting Kelechi Iheanacho. A reminder that James Maddison is missing today through illness. From an Arsenal point of view, they've got Ramsdale in goals, Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba and White across the back four, Jorginho, Xhaka and Ødegaard in midfield, with Martinelli and Saka either side of Leandro Trossard. Well, Leicester against Arsenal pretty much guarantees drama, pretty much guarantees goals as well. Let's take a quick look back at some of those pretty now infamous moments against the Gunners.
Still get the feeling that Leicester could well snatch something yet. Here's Worthington. Chipped in again towards Bob Lee. He lets it go there. Oh, and what a goal! Scored by John Samuels.
Has placed it. Walsh arrives. Yes! Yes! Would you believe it? Oh, it's 3-3. The captain Walsh.
Well, he's okay. He's very okay. Emile Heskey! Oh, what a stunning strike! From Leicester's own Emile Heskey. Seconds after receiving treatment, he got up, he kept going and going. Here's Vardy. Leicester quickly up the other end. Okazaki in the box. Vardy! This scoring spree continues. Leicester City quite happy to take on anyone at the moment.
16 minutes to go until half-time. Arsenal loose in possession. Albrighton takes the ball. Good ball into the penalty area. Vardy taps in. Leicester have the lead. And Jamie Vardy, who just loves a goal against Arsenal, has continued his excellent scoring streak against the Gunners. His fourth goal against them in 3 games.
Take part in proceedings. Here's Ndidi. Ricardo, edge of the area. Maddison alongside him, so too Jamie Vardy. On to Maddison, a driven shot that's into the net! Another goal from the majestic James Maddison! Leicester double their lead and surely will be second in the table this evening.
Yeah, some brilliant goals scored against Arsenal down the years, not least that James Maddison strike. What an evening that was at King Power Stadium a couple of years ago. That's the last time Leicester beat Arsenal at home, back in November 2019. Just quickly, guys, do we see that changing today? I'm going to start with you, Jamie, since you pulled a face.
Yeah, my heart says Leicester, my head says Arsenal. I'm going for a score draw.
Another Desmond again.
Another Desmond.
Was that 3 weeks in a row
yeah,
now you've said
I'll go
that?
for the Desmond 2-2.
You can perhaps see that though, with the way that these teams both like to go
I think
forward.
Leicester will be licking their wounds a little bit from last week's after starting the game so well, and think about what we did to Arsenal. Okay, Tottenham. Okay, Arsenal are a better team than Tottenham, but we said if you do the right things defensively, and obviously we know they're a threat going forward, then they give themselves a great chance.
What do you think?
Before the game and on the back of the Tottenham game, I thought Leicester, maybe with the changes and what we've been on about Arsenal before the programme or during the programme, I've talked myself out of it, and I'm thinking now Leicester will do well to get anything out of the game.
That's not a prediction, Matt. You need
so, hang on. And at the same time, I think they could nick it as well. But there will be goals in it. Arsenal 2-1.
That's the sort of positivity we need
here
on Matchday Live on LCFC TV. We're just under 15 minutes to go now until kick-off, which means we'll hand over now to our commentary team. We've already heard from Matt Elliott. He's alongside James Fielden today, where hopefully we'll see a fantastic result for the Foxes.
Because memories never fade, no matter how long. We'll still remember the moments of excitement and the impressions of Thailand. Amazing Thailand, now even more amazing.
Lamiat is the belief that perfection lies within the details, where the finest ingredients deserve the finest craftsmanship. In every pursuit of perfection, there is passion and perseverance, where attention to detail inspires a masterpiece that's balanced and in harmony. This is the Lamiat philosophy, brewed into every drop of Chang beer. This is the taste of Thai perfection. Chang beer. We brew friendship.
Hello, good afternoon everyone and welcome along to King Power Stadium. A big test here in the East Midlands this afternoon with the Premier League leaders in town as Leicester City take on Arsenal. Well, Leicester's need for points is big right now as they sit just 4 above the relegation zone, which is a strange thing to say, having won 2 of their last 3 games with plenty of goals on offer, but that's certainly where they are right now. Last weekend's setback at Old Trafford was avoidable after a strong first half, and they'll need another quick start here against the country's best side so far this campaign. Arsenal start the weekend 2 points in a game in hand ahead of Manchester City at the top of the Premier League, and Mikel Arteta's side are gunning for a first league title since Arsene Wenger's Invincibles back in 2004. In the present day, they've been on a rocky run over the last few weeks, but finally got back on track results-wise at least, with that dramatic 4-2 win at Aston Villa last Saturday to put the stop to a run of 4 games without a win. They've won 9 of their 12 away games, which is also the best return in the division. In terms of the team news today, 2 changes for Leicester. Wilfred Ndidi and Denis Praet come in. Ndidi's first start since the Forest away game. Praet starting for the first time in 2023. Papi Mendy and James Maddison drop out. Maddison, we understand, would have been in the squad today, away had it not been for illness overnight. So in goal, it's Ward, Castagna, Suter, Fass and Christensen across the back, and Didi, the captain, in midfield alongside Dewsbury Hall, Tetê, Praet and Barnes supporting Iheanacho up front. Arsenal making one change, and it comes in the forward area. Out goes Eddie Nketiah, Gabriel Martinelli comes in, Ramsdale in goal, White, Saliba, Gabriel and Zinchenko, who's wearing the captain's armband today, by the way. Normally Odegaard, but they've given him the armband today, supposedly marking the anniversary of the war in Ukraine. So Zinchenko wearing the captain's armband, Odegaard, Jorginho and Xhaka in midfield, and then up front, we're not quite sure whether it'd be Trossard through the middle or Martinelli. Martinelli was going through the middle in the warm-up, but the suggestion downstairs was that it could possibly be Trossard. Either way, across the front, Saka, Trossard and Martinelli. Just to go through the Leicester subs for you today very quickly, they are sub-goalkeeper Daniel Everson, Yuri Tielemans, Jamie Vardy, Amati, Daka, Ricardo, Mendy, Thomas and Soumare. And yeah, that's where we're at team-wise. Alongside me for this one is Matt Elliott. Matt, good to see you. It's a little bit nippy today, isn't it?
It's fresh, James, that's for sure. I made the mistake of gauging the temperature by the sunlight when I got out of the house, and I quickly reversed, got the big winter coat on. Very handy indeed.
Yeah, you can never pack it away too far, can you? In terms of what we're expecting today, look, Arsenal speak for themselves. They've been the outstanding side this season. Even when City beat them down at the Emirates the other week, it looked as though maybe City were going to topple them, but that then swung back the other way with Manchester City dropping points in their game and Arsenal profiting. They've been the best side, but Leicester can match them. We've seen it time and time again with those sides, but unlike Manchester United last week, they cannot afford not to take chances here.
No, that's right. I think it's to and fro in a little bit, isn't it? And I'm still a believer that at this stage, although I'm wavering slightly, I still think Man City will win it over the duration. I think this Arsenal team are going to run them mighty, mighty close. Listen, a lot of to and froing to occur between now and the end of the season, but you know, just concentrating on today, which is all the teams can do. Foolish to look further ahead for both teams out there today, but you know, some people looking at it and almost thinking it's a little bit of a free hit for Leicester. I'm sure Brendan Rodgers and his players would beg to differ on that. It's a Premier League game, points to be won.
And they can't afford to take it as a free hit. They're 4 points above the relegation zone.
No, exactly. You know, if they were to slip up today and other teams prevailed, then all of a sudden, like you say, well, you're talking 1 point possibly to the relegation slots, and then all of a sudden causes a different problem. Pick up a positive result, you know, the opposite happens. Other teams drop points or whatever, or don't gain any. All of a sudden, you're looking at mid-table security, aren't you? And then only looking upwards again. There's such fine balance between things, but you know, like this game is probably going to be finely balanced. But I think it's going to be difficult for Leicester. I think they've got to be confident in themselves and not too derailed or affected by the fact that Maddison isn't playing. You know, they've got top-class players out there today. Denis Praet, you know, full international, coming in as Maddison's replacement. No mean feat, you know, and Didi back in the fray as well. Can he get back to his forceful self? And the other players don't cause a problem going forward. But it's at the other end of the pitch that Leicester are going to have most trouble, I think. But a real test for them, but one that they're capable of standing up against.
Yeah, Leicester with the second worst defence, Arsenal with the second best attack. But there have been goals at both ends for both sides in recent times, you know. Yeah. Leicester has scored 8 goals in the last 3 games. Arsenal have conceded 5 in the last 2 games, which probably sets us up for a 0-0 here.
Well, yeah, like any game, you never quite know, do you? But, you know, some people have pointed or indicated towards the fact Jorginho's come in there instead of Partey. Brings different elements to his game, but perhaps not as defensively robust or able to sort of track runs possibly at times. You know, might be a part of the reason for that concession of goals. But listen, it happens. It's very rarely a perfect world, is it? You don't go throughout the season, you know, being totally to the letter. But it's an exciting game. There's lots of talent. There's lots of ability out there. There's lots of purposefulness, is that the word?
If you like. It is now.
There's lots of purpose, from individuals out there who want to play football in an attractive manner, and collectively as well. So, great atmosphere. What a game to spectate, or we're lucky enough to actually co-commentate, or you commentate on it. It's going to be an exciting affair, you feel?
Yeah, these are the ones you should savour. You say it's an exciting affair. Interested onlookers today. David O'Leary watching just away to our right-hand side, and the England boss as well, Gareth Southgate, watching from the stands for this one. Everyone taking their seats around us here, and kick-off coming up very, very shortly indeed. Just 5 minutes until we get going here. The two sides in the tunnel beneath us right now. Wilfred Ndidi, the Leicester captain today. Zinchenko at the heads of the queue for Arsenal. Indeed, he's had a strange old season, hasn't he, really? Look, injuries haven't helped. He's been up, down, in, out. He hasn't really been able to have a good, consistent run, but a chance for him to prove again his worth in this side.
No, that's right, and it's a tough surprise seeing him in the starting lineup this week, against a team the quality of Arsenal. But it's hard to make head of the situation with him. Like captain today, seemingly. So he's had a turn of events this season, hasn't he? But there's still a very, very good player in there. He can still get back to being a dominant force.
Brendan Rodgers celebrates his 4-year anniversary by welcoming Premier League leaders Arsenal, who have the best away record in the division. The Foxes will have to be at their very best as they look to bounce back from defeat at Manchester United. The sides lining up in front of the Premier League hoardings here. The post-horn gallop, I should say, greets the players here. Heads of another big afternoon of top-flight football here at King Power Stadium. Some of the Leicester players waving at loved ones watching on from the main stand here. Referee for this one this afternoon is Craig Pawson. VAR is Michael Salisbury. Kick-off here at King Power is now just a couple of minutes away. Leicester once again with Ward in goal, Castagna, Suter, Fass and Christensen across the back, and Ndidi and Dewsbury Hall just ahead of them. Tetê, Praet and Barnes behind Iheanacho, who once again starts up front. Maybe a criticism of Iheanacho last week maybe was that when he did receive the ball, maybe he wasn't making the right decisions as the centre forward. Maybe you see a bit more from him today.
Yeah, at times I think that was the case, but also he didn't give himself a chance to make decisions because he wasn't strong enough and robust. Martinez was probably getting into him, wasn't he? He's like the stereotypical rash defender. Very impressive, I thought he was, both with and without the ball. But Iheanacho wasn't physically prepared for it. I didn't quite understand it. You've got to expect to be roughed up a little bit and put off your game by the centre halves. It's not just a little gentle five-a-side. Iheanacho's good when he's got that time and space. Wasn't his day, as it wasn't for a few Leicester players really, Maddison included. But expecting better from Iheanacho. He's generally these days quite consistent with his performances when given the opportunity.
Well, Jamie Vardy continues to sit on the bench at the moment, so it is up to Iheanacho to fill the void that Vardy has occupied for so many years now. And clearly a changing of the guard is going to be happening over the next couple of years in that particular area as Vardy gets older and older. Arsenal out and just about ready to go here. Leicester likewise, pitch in mint condition. It was raining here when the guys came to us for team news just after 2 o'clock, but that has gone now. A slick surface down in front of us for this one. The two captains standing with the mascots in the centre circle. We are just waiting for the final match preparations to get going here. It's an Arsenal team, an Arsenal squad that we all kind of know a lot more about now, don't we, after the documentary that was done on them on Amazon that I think most football fans have now seen. Certainly Mikel Arteta was able to put his ideas across in that one. His individual and quite unique team talks that were taking place in the dressing room. Anyway, underway. Leicester just waiting now. Arsenal in a pre-match huddle in front of us here. I was about to say the game means so much more for them than it does Leicester, but with Leicester position, these points are vital. Everyone looking to hit that 30-point mark. I think it is going to be a low total for survival this season. The countdown on here at King Power ahead of kickoff. This 3 o'clock start here for Leicester City against Arsenal. It will be the Gunners to get us underway. Leandro Trossard standing over the ball in the centre circle.